Such a passionate man. What am I going to do it on? I could have done it on loads and loads of things. I could have done it on the city of Liverpool. I used to live there. I lived there for about 8 to 10 years. And that's me in Liverpool with the Fab Four. I didn't actually know them, but I did it on that. I could have done it on walking. I love walking. This is me. Well, that's not me actually. That's Ruffs. Ruffs actually came with me. We actually walked the Hadrian's Wall from Carlisle to Newcastle. We've also walked the South Downs Way as well, but I'm not going to do it on that. I could have done it on running. That's me with the Helsham Harriers in front there. I could have done it on acting. I'm a singer. I do opera. I do a show at the Dempsey Park Theatre every year. I could have done it on that, but I'm not going to do it on that. I could have done it on David Bowie, but I haven't enough time. I could have done it on a specific album of David Bowie, probably my favourite album, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. But I'm not going to do that. What am I going to do it on? I'm going to do it on the rise in popularity of non-league football, with particular reference to the peer pressure. Now, who are the peer pressure? All will be revealed. Football has always been a passion of mine since I was a lad. In 1971, at the age of 11, my brother-in-law took me to see Liverpool. I was in the stand and I looked down on a mass of people, 20,000 strong, and passionate about their team. When they sang in unison, the noise they made was deafening. They were called the Cop. Just before kick-off, something happened that was a catalyst to the start of my love affair with football. People around me said, "He's coming, he's coming." Then a man with a smart suit and a red tie appeared from the tunnel, stood and faced the Cop, punched the air and took his seat in the dugout. The action of this one man sent the crowd wild, and the man's name was Bill Shankly. This all happened before a ball was kicked, but the other team didn't stand a chance. The huge show of passion swept Liverpool to victory, and I was a fan from that day. I was lucky enough to go to university and chose Manchester. No, I didn't choose Manchester. I chose Liverpool, of course. Where else? I lived there for about 8 years and would stand on the Cop every other Saturday, watching them become the most successful club side in the world. It was relatively easy and cheap to watch them. You queued up for about 15 minutes, paid about £1.75 at the turnstiles, and took your place on the terraces. The players at the time were paid about 3 times the average weekly wage. The club's revenue was the money they took through the turnstiles through attendances, together with a small amount of revenue from the club shop, which sold a few scarves and badges and mugs, etc. How times have changed. The most revolutionary change was the birth in 1992 of the Premier League. 2016-17 was the first season under a new record-breaking 3-year TV deal, which made the Premier League the most lucrative domestic league in the world. Sky Sports and BT Sport shared the broadcasting rights of the Premier League in the United Kingdom for 3 years with a huge, there you have it, £5.136 billion deal signed in 2016. The Premier League also signed a massive overseas TV deal which takes the total TV income to more than £8.5 billion for the next 3 seasons. Just let that sink in. £8.5 billion. So the prize money paid to all the clubs for the 2016-17 season was £2.4 billion. Sunderland, who finished bottom, ended up with £100 million. It doesn't stop there. The top clubs also compete in the European Champions League. There are 5 English clubs currently in the competition, and these clubs are set to earn massive bonuses depending on their performance throughout the tournament. They will all have a share of a £1.3 billion prize pot. Along with everyone else, I was surprised by the sheer size of the new TV deal, and I think the most important thing now is a real challenge to the Premier League to demonstrate a commitment to the world of football. It must use these mega riches in a way that benefits the whole game to a greater extent than it has done previously. The Supporters Federation has had a campaign to try and influence the way it uses its money. Firstly, to have a significant effect on ticket prices, because without match-going fans, there would not be a TV product to sell. And so the Premier League should significantly reduce prices, particularly for away fans. Secondly, there needs to be a significantly more support for grassroots football. In the current austerity climate, there is a moral responsibility for the Premier League to support the game as a whole, and more money has to filter down. An alternative to the money and pantomime drama of the Premier League is non-league football, and my talk is to highlight its rise in popularity. Some fans of the Premier League clubs feel so alienated that they have formed their own teams. FC United of Manchester started after a growing discontent towards the way Manchester United was being turned into a corporate entity. So in 2005, an alternative was born. They are now the largest fan-owned club in the UK. Disaffected fans of Premier League clubs have also turned to established non-league clubs. On Saturday the 2nd of January 2017, almost a year ago to this very day, my son-in-law took me 200 yards down the road to the Saffrons to watch the oldest football club in Sussex. Eastbourne Town played Peacehaven and the town won 5-0. It was there I was introduced to the local fan groups, the Pier Pressure and the Beachy Head Ultras. These fans gathered behind the goal, singing songs full of wit drawn from a wide variety of musical inspirations, ranging from Supertramp to Frank Sinatra. My favourite is the self-depreciating chant, "Oh, Eastbourne Town is wonderful, it's full of old people and seagulls. Oh, Eastbourne Town is wonderful." The atmosphere, with its drums, flags, banners, yellow and blue flares of smoke, slogans and endless songs and chants, is very similar to Germany's Bundesliga, and the open admiration for Germany's most liberal club, FC St. Pauli, is clearly evident. It's not an unburial din either, as the guys on the drums can actually play, and there are professional musicians in their ranks. There is also a saxophone added to the mix, as you can see. The term ultras is often associated with hardcore fan groups in Europe, but the Peer Pressure use this with tongue firmly in cheek, as they want the club to be as inclusive as possible for all kinds of fans, whatever ages. The Peer Pressure are responsible for a variety of banners around the ground, and here are a few examples. Now, as you can see, there is some funny writing there. It's got the last one, the yellow one, Peer Pressure, and it's got some funny writing. I believe, my Japanese is a bit rusty, but it stands for ultras. It's actually katana. But there's one banner which is my favourite. In my introduction, I hark back to the 1970s and 80s and romanticised about the football in that era, to the days when football looked like an L.S. Lowry drawing of Subbuteo. My nostalgia-tinned description had one drawback, and that was that the football fan culture at the time was rampant with hooliganism and racism. This particular banner is a far cry from the football fans' views of the 70s and 80s. It reads, as you can see, peace, love, unity, respect. And then spells out no homophobia, no racism, no violence, no sexism. I mentioned earlier the saxophone player. His name is Matt, and he explains that the formation of the group was a protest against the hooligan stereotype, and says, and I quote, "We wanted to show that football should be for everybody, where everyone feels welcome and not scared to go, not worried that they'll face racist or homophobic chanting." The Peer Pressure actively volunteer within the club, helping maintain the club's social media presence and designing matchday programmes. There's a couple of examples. They also design posters and merchandise. Here's a few examples of the merchandise. That's one of my I'm actually wearing one of those t-shirts. There's a couple of more t-shirts and hoodies. And there are some scarves. As you can see, the top one, Beachy Head Ultras. The second one, that's the reverse of the Beachy Head Ultras. It's got God's waiting room. That's nice. And then we've got Eastbourne Town and Pier Pressure in the club's colours of blue and gold. In return for designing all the programmes and the posters and the merchandise and the club's website, the club allows the Peer Pressure to sell the merchandise and have designated a section of the stand behind the goal for them to set up drums, banners, stickers, etc. One of the ultras responsible for the unique designs is Alex, who says, and I'm going to quote him again, "Non-league football is our punk rock. So I've always wanted the project to reflect that. It is a completely different world from that of Premier League football. Therefore, I don't want the aesthetic of our club to mimic the design and art direction of top-tier football. Non-league football is having a drink and chatting to the players after the game, mixing with opposition fans, away days in towns you didn't know existed, pints of beer for a couple of pounds, and being able to take it onto the terraces. It is essentially choosing to give your money to the local community and not to a soulless corporation." I thought that was a great quote. Football is only one part of the Ultras' activities. They have actively engaged with the community and run various initiatives throughout the club, such as regular collections for the Eastbourne Food Bank and a fundraising scheme for the Kick Racism Out of Football campaign. They have teamed up with a local housing union to resist exploitative practices by landlords and organised charity collections on various match days, most recently to the Mexico earthquake, the Demelza Children's Hospice and the 1066 Specials football team. What do players and officials think of the peer pressure? David Jenkins, the chairman of Eastbourne Town, admits that initially the presence of the Ultras was a bit of a shock to a club accustomed to a more sedate atmosphere at home games. But Jenkins' approach has very much been one of negotiation, and it appears to be paying off to the mutual benefit of both club and the fans. He says, I quote, "I want to engage with anyone who wants to support Eastbourne Town. It is a broad church, and I would hate to think we'd ever have to choose which is the right way to support a football club." The club coach, Peter Heritage, fully endorses these comments and adds that the club is lucky and honoured to have the Ultras as support. And he says the atmosphere they create is unbelievable at this level of non-league football. The players love it, and it raises their performances. But what do other clubs think, and what do other clubs and their supporters think of the peer pressure? Peter Heritage, the coach, adds, "We have so many people from other clubs remarking how good the atmosphere is when we play away from home. In non-league football, I think there is a common bond between the fans. Everyone has chosen to turn their backs on the top flight. There is no mandatory segregation below conference level, and people generally behave accordingly in a mature, friendly fashion. There's banter, yes, but respect too. The cliché is to talk of the non-league family, but clichés become clichés largely because they're true. Notoriety of the peer pressure has not escaped the attention of the national press. In November, there was a large 2-page article in the I newspaper. The article was, in my view, largely well written, although it did seem to concentrate on the group backing left-wing causes. If the peer pressure's mantra is no homophobia, no racism, no violence, no sexism, I don't see how that could be left-wing. This is something everyone should believe in. I see it as simply as being humane. However, they did summarise the article well by saying the peer pressure are non-league non-conformists, displaying punk credentials with pride. More than just cultivating a rebel image, however, peer pressure wants to change things for the better in Eastbourne. Having revitalised the atmosphere of the club, it is shown that a handful of fans, armed with drums, flags and a sax, can make a difference. My time is almost up, and I would like to summarise by showing you these slides. Football was not invented in 1992. As I said before, 1992 is when the Premier League was formed. Turn off your TV, turn on your passion. And the last one, don't let your kids grow up thinking football is a TV programme. So, choose having a drink and a chat with the players after the game. Choose mixing with opposition fans. Choose away days in towns you never knew existed, and where the opposing club chairman is so enthusiastic by the level of your support, he buys all the peer pressure a drink. Choose getting a beer for a few quid and standing on the terraces with it. Choose to give your money to a local club and not a soulless corporation. Choose players who know the fans by their name. Choose parking right next to the ground. That's really good. Choose standing wherever you want to. Choose paying £1 for a cup of tea. Choose honest football right on your doorstep. So if you have a few hours to spare on Saturday, come along 200 yards down the road to the Saffrons, because Eastbourne Town is a local club for local people. And as far as the Premier League goes, there's nothing for you here. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant talk. I loved it, Beck. That was fantastic. All that passion that's right on our doorstep, and it makes a fantastic message that actually this stuff, you know, it does get corporatised, doesn't it? The Premier League have corporatised it.
Right.
We've done the same with lots of stuff, and it's brilliant to hear that it's just down the road and it's all so passionate.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm sure people will have questions. I thought it was a fantastic talk. Anybody got any questions for Pex? Anybody want to buy any season tickets? Join the peer pressure. Anybody want to ask?
The season tickets is only £80 for a full season, and it works out. The ticket price is on a normal season, on a normal game is £6. If you buy a season ticket, it works out about £4.50 a game.
Brilliant. Anybody have any questions? It kind of struck me when you were talking, Pex. It's a bit like printers and what the team do at printers. That actually it's about bringing people together and connecting. And of course, non-league football does the same. You're all there on the terraces. You're drinking. You're all with each other, meeting and supporting the games. And TV and corporatisation and all that sort of stuff has tended to just take us away from that kind of interaction.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly took me away. I mean, I used to go and, as I said, I used to first of all, when I lived in Cumbria, I used to go and watch a team called Workington. That was my first team. I went to university, went to watch Liverpool, and did so for about 8 years. Then I came to live in Eastbourne. So that was a long way away from my team. So I continued to watch them on the television. Occasionally I would go to a few games, but I sort of lost contact. And then I went to the Eastbourne Town a year ago, and it's just been revitalised. You know, my love affair with football has just been revitalised, and the people that you meet, it is fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Does anybody have any? Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
Two things. One is an observation. It's kind of similar to what's happened in the music industry, where you go to see the big bands now. You know, the ticket prices are absolutely insane, and it's in huge venues, and you're about 1 million miles from the stage, and could be further removed. It's all very corporate, very big business. Whereas, you know, small bands in venues like this are starving, and you know, it is so much more fun. To just not have to go to London, but to just go down the road, have a pint, and watch your, you know, a really good band. Who sometimes you don't pay anything at all, like here, you know, and so that's just an observation, and I'd like to see more of that across the board. Secondly, just about your away days, do you organise a coach when you go away?
Yes, sometimes we do. Sometimes we just sort of meet down the road with a load of cars, and we sort of ferry people to the game. Then, if it's a big game, we take a coach. The last away game that we went on the coach, we actually went with a team. Actually went with Eastbourne Town Football Club. We went with the players, and so there's and we all sort of mixed together, and travelled back on a big coach. So not often that happens. You wouldn't see the supporters travelling with Manchester United.
No, but yes, another question. Right.
Just how they're doing this season.
They're doing very well. We are currently 4th in the table. We're about 3 points behind the leaders, which are Haywards Heath. We're doing well. And on Saturday, it's probably the biggest game for about 40 years. We're playing in the FA Vars, and we're playing a team called Windsor. And we're about 3 or 4 steps away from a Wembley final. So it really is for a little club like Eastbourne Town. It's a very big game. It could be going to Wembley, hopefully.
We don't want them getting too big.
Yeah.
There is a danger of that. Yeah, I mean, if they were really successful year in, year out, and climbed up the leagues, how would I feel if they became really successful? I don't know.
Any last questions for Pex, or shall we? I think that's probably enough. So can we just once again thank Pex.